Hey, Age Lead Store fans, I'm Bill Rice, and we're back for another week of sales training tips. And I'm super excited about this week's topic because it is definitely one of our most requested topics so far. And I'm certain that the video itself is probably going to be one of our most popular. And it's a little bit of a complex topic. So we're actually going to step up to the whiteboard and we're going to talk about drip email campaigns, specifically as it applies to age leads. So let's get to the training. Okay, before we jump into our training, I would love for you to do me a huge favor, and this will be a huge favor to you because you're going to get tons of training topics and concepts and just little tips. They're going to help propel your performance, hit your quota every single month. And all you got to do is go down right below this video, hit that little subscribe button. And if you want to do an extra favor for yourself, hit that little bell and notification. And then every week, as we actually publish the video, you'll be the first to receive it and you'll get these latest tips. So love for you to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification so that you get all of these tips. And then, of course, always like or dislike if we miss the mark and comments below. So before we even get started on this, I'd like for you to tell me a little bit about what you're doing. So if you're using drip email campaigns today, put yes in the comments. If you're not using drip email campaigns today, put no in the comments. And if you have any questions, love to see those too. I'm actively in there. I will answer that probably even faster than your emails. So I would love for you to get in those comments, ask any questions, tell me where you're stuck, and I'll try to work through you as best I can in those comments. So again, if you're not using drip email campaigns, put no in the comments. If you are currently using drip email campaigns, put yes in the comments. All right, let's step up to the whiteboard and talk about this. So drip email campaigns, when I think about building these campaigns, which I've done tons of them, even outside of the financial services industry. But I know a lot of you are mortgage and insurance. So I'm going to probably bend the training a little bit in that direction. But these sort of tactics and the framework I'm going to teach you here today can apply against all kinds of things. Solar, med supplements, even if you're doing home improvement and home repairs, all of these sort of concepts and frameworks can be put together to be effective for any type of lead that you're working on. And you just have to kind of tweak the language inside of the actual email. So don't shut it off here. Let's go through all these things and I'll try to weave those in. But this is probably going to be geared a little bit towards insurance and mortgage. So the first step whenever I'm building a new drip email campaign is I start to organize my email communications by sort of different categories. And normally in email speak, this is segmenting your list because ultimately not every lead is the same and you don't actually get that lead in the same manner. And that really affects how you build the campaign and how you start the communication process. So the first category that I usually always build emails for is what is my new lead? So most of you probably have a website or you're buying real-time leads. And so those are coming in real time, close proximity to when the individual has requested the information or made the inquiry. And so you need to immediately start communicating. And you're going to communicate in sort of a fresh, responsive way, right? You're responding directly to an inquiry. And so for these type of emails, speed and having them understand that, hey, I'm the one that you've contacted, especially if you're buying leads from a real-time lead provider, it's really important for them to know that, hey, I am responding to your inquiry that you made somewhere on the internet, right? So new leads is a category. Cold leads, these are a broad category of new leads that oftentimes you just can't contact. So you should have a segment and a flow, a workflow, where after you've kind of done this new lead type of communication, that as they are sort of non-responsive or they go cold or they begin to age, which I'm going to define a little bit differently for our purposes because we often talk about age leads. So the cold leads is something that when I build this campaign, it's for leads that I got in real time or from my website, and for whatever reason, they have been non-responsive or they've stopped communicating with me. So that's what I define as cold. And I'm going to talk to them in a very specific way, and I'm going to build a dedicated campaign. Dead leads. These are leads that through a combination of non-responsiveness or they have kind of reached a time span where I think the probability of me actually having a deal here has declined significantly. I'm kind of assuming that they've gone somewhere else or they've had their needs satisfied elsewhere, but I still want to communicate with them and I still want to talk to them in a good way, because sometimes, especially when we're talking about leads, if you're buying real-time leads or you're buying age leads, there's a period of time where they're just overwhelmed, right? And they just kind of take a pause on the whole process. And then, of course, this is what we're going to talk about today. And that is age leads. I categorize them a little bit different. They will be similar to the types of communications that you would do with cold and dead for obvious reasons, right? They've reached that threshold where because they're age leads, they probably have become non-responsive. And because of the period of time, they're probably kind of not fresh to their inquiry. So you have to kind of remind them of the inquiry that they made. And potentially they've already been helped. And so we want to talk to them in a different way because even though they're aged, I'm trying to build a relationship with them. And this is really key point. If you're buying aged leads, there's a couple of different objectives that you should always keep in mind, right? One objective is I want to get a deal out of that aged lead if that person has not been helped or has been helped in a poor way. I want to get in there and I want to beat the competition and grab that immediate deal. But some of the gold in age leads is building a relationship that oftentimes when real-time, a lot of the people that are buying real-time leads are sort of big organizations and have big infrastructure. So when they do the deal, that's it for them. That's the end, right? So oftentimes these age leads, even if a deal was done, they're not being serviced properly. So you have the opportunity to build a relationship with this person that's better than the one that the current provider is actually built. They may just completely ignore them, right? The money has been had, and they have no use for them. So you getting into an email flow with this individual and doing things in a good way can build a relationship that could potentially get you the renewal or the next refi. So there's tons of gold in just starting to warm them up and making them a part of, and this is what I tell people all the time, think of your age leads as an opportunity to build a book of business, right? We're trying to build a relationship with these people first, and then hopefully you'll get some immediate deals. You certainly will. But we're building a book of business that will be so large and significant that it's constantly churning out new inquiries. Okay. So not to get on my soapbox there. And then there's another category of leads that are actually in the sales funnel. And we're going to talk to those people a little bit different. It's probably a whole separate video, but once you've actually made contact with them, a lot of times you're quoting, or maybe you've gotten a loan application, but for a variety of reasons, they may go to sleep on you, or you have to continually kind of apply that pressure to kind of get them to move forward, to get over whatever their anxiety or their sticking point is. So definitely email has a big drip email in particular, has a big part in people that are inside the sales funnel. But we're not going to talk about that today. Okay. So then the other thing is when I'm actually building emails or I'm thinking about my templates that I'm using, I have a couple of different frameworks of the sort of language I use and the templates and framework. And this is my quick list. So there are emails that their primary intent is prospecting, right? People that I don't know, they don't know me. I'm reaching out, do a lot of this in the B2B world for sure, but it has a very effective role inside B2C and doing insurance, mortgage, a lot of times, especially home improvement, right? Oftentimes home improvement leads have some different indicators, and I'm pursuing sort of a different type of sale than maybe they initially inquired about. Welcome emails. This is just a function of getting them to know me and to trust me and to provide credibility. Pursuit. This is mostly what we'll focus on here is the welcome and the pursuit type emails. And these, sometimes they're called nurturing, but I like to call them pursuit because I'm actively trying to get this person engaged with me, right? Nurturing just means just kind of sending them junk, right? And over again, hopefully I'm top of mind. But when I write an email, I'm actually trying to pursue this person for a relationship and engagement. Onboarding. So they've actually done a deal with you. Do this in a good way so that somebody else doesn't buy an age lead and steal them from you. So this is really important. Again, something we probably won't get into today. Renewals. keep track. This is where, again, savvy people like you buying age leads can really snap up these renewal opportunities if the initial provider is not paying attention, right? If the loan officer is not keeping up on how long they've had that mortgage and the potential rate environment, opportunities for refi, opportunities for equity and home equity. In the insurance space, just there's a date, right? There's a time when a renewal is important. Maybe there's a set time when you just want to check up on them to see if you could do a better rate or a better policy. So renewals are critical. And again, opportunity for you purchasing age leads, but don't be the fool who doesn't do this sort of stuff and loses them to some other competition out there. Referrals, these are people that are clients or professional networking relationships that you have. Referrals, there's a whole different sort of set of campaigns that you can do around trying to initiate referrals. Again, probably a topic of another video, but super important. And then re-engagement. And this is the stuff that we're going to talk about a lot when we're talking about cold and dead. Okay, so let's move over to kind of my second step in this, and that is understanding the context. Never write an email without putting yourself in the brain of the person that you're writing to. And this should be as specific as trying to kind of think of that person. If you actually know a client that potentially would be in this category, like put their face in your mind when you're talking to them, okay? Here's some of the categories of context that you'll potentially write email campaigns for. There are a situation where the person has never heard of you and they're not in the market for what you sell. And so this is more of a prospecting sort of email, but may happen. So these are super cold lists potentially. There is category 2 in the market and they've never heard of you, right? But this actually happens a lot. People don't think about this, but when you're buying real-time leads, this is kind of the category that you're in, especially when you're writing emails. Those people are actively in the market. They don't know who you are, right? You've purchased a lead underneath a different brand or was originated on a different website. And so this is going to be the person that you're talking to, right? They're definitely in the market. They have no idea who you are, and they're probably not really sure why you're calling them, right? So this is super important to help with emails. It can also help your cold calls because these are cold calls. So it can help your calling activity too, but we're not going to talk about that today because we're going to focus on age leads. In the market, they've heard of you, but they've been assaulted by the competitor. This is what happens to a lot of real-time leads that puts them in this cold, dead, and age lead category, actually, because they're in the market. They've been contacted by several different brokers or agents, and so they know all these brands, but they're just overwhelmed by all the people that are calling them, so they just shut down. So even though they know who you are and they're in the market, they're just, I'm going to put this on pause. I can't take this assault. So this is a little bit of who we'll be talking to for sure. Because again, we're probably going to pick them up as an age lead after they've taken this pause. And that really what puts them in the 4th category, which is truly the bulk of the people that we're talking to and the emails that we're going to write. And that was, they were in the market. They've probably never heard of you. And they were assaulted for competition. So that's the type of email that we're going to have to write, and we're going to have to overcome all those factors. We have to see if they're in the market. That's just helpful for us to kind of filter through things. We want to make sure that they've heard of us and they continue to sort of build that brand recognition and trust and credibility around us. And we're going to make sure we're going to be empathetic and cautious about the fact that they've been assaulted in the past by competition. So we're going to take a slightly different approach. Okay, so let's head over here. And now I'm going to get to really tactical execution to close this out. Okay, so this is where you want to take notes. If I'm building an email drip campaign, these are the components that I'm going to write. Okay, number 1. I am going to build probably about, this is my average, about 3 emails that are designed to make initial contact and warm them up or welcome them to my brand and me personally so that we can gain a little bit of trust. So I'm going to do this very carefully, and I'm going to use some very intentional tactics here to do this well, because this is my opportunity to put them in my book of business, right? To warm them up and make them comfortable that I'm going to give them a different experience than what they've had before. And then sometimes I'll create a transition email that, if, of course, this activates them and there's a real immediate deal, then we'll start talking and we'll start emailing, and that'll have a little bit of a different feel to it. But if they go through all 3 of these emails, I'm not going to stop talking to them unless they ask me to stop talking to them. I'm going to move them into my nurture site, because I honestly believe, and you shouldn't be buying leads and you shouldn't be working leads if you don't honestly believe that you have something of value and you can help those people better than anyone else, that they are better in your hands than any other agent out there, or any other loan officer. That has to be the case. That has to be the product that you're delivering. And so I know I'll get a lot of flack in the comments, all right? But if they ignore me for 3 emails, I'm going to begin nurturing them, because I know it's important for them to be in my hands versus all these other yahoos out here, right? So that gives me a lot of comfort to continue to talk to them and to continue to put them into my nurture list. Okay, so now to talk about some very specific stuff. There's some tools in here as well that can kind of help you, and it's probably another discussion. I'm going to pause here for a second and let you know and remind you again that the comments is a great place to put things that you feel like you would like to know more about that I didn't cover in here, so we can cover in a subsequent video. So right now, go down in the comment section. If you would like to know about or have me do a video on the different types of tools that you can use in drip email, put in the comments tools, okay? And if you have more to add to that, or you have more questions specifically, of course, ask those, and maybe I'll drop some tool tips in there. But if you'd like for me to do a whole video on tools, go into the comment section and just type in tools and leave that comment. Okay. Unfortunately, because of time and space, I'm only going to give you one sample email. And this is the initial, this is actually the standard email that I send out to a brand new age lead every single time that I've worked them. And I'm a licensed loan officer, so I've done this in the mortgage space. So I'm going to give you an example for mortgage, but again, it can be applied to almost any vertical. Okay. So here's what it looks like. Subject line: did you get your mortgage? ? Super simple. I'm asking them a question. There should be no offense to that. I just simply want to know, did you get your mortgage? So as soon as they see that subject line, they're like, okay, if I didn't, that'll trigger their memory about their process and their inquiry and that sort of thing. And they'll open it, right? And say, oh, well, maybe I didn't, maybe I did. If they didn't, right, they had a bad experience, they'll probably pop it open because they're like, what's this guy want, right? So it's going to get some sort of emotional response in any cases, and I have a really high open rate on this. Oftentimes, too, it kind of comes in there, and if they have gotten a mortgage or they're working on a mortgage, they'll be curious. And so they'll open that question because they want to just make sure, hey, I'm in the mortgage process. I don't want to miss anything, right? So there's some opportunity for you to get engaged in somebody that's still considering a mortgage, right? So real simple. Did you get your mortgage, right? Don't get clever. Don't get silly. Don't put your name in it. Don't put their name in it. All those things kind of trigger their mental understanding that, hey, this maybe is a little bit spammy. Just ask a simple question. Just like this whole email should just feel like you just talking to a friend, an email that you would send to a friend, right? If you were checking up on your friend, you knew they were trying to get a mortgage, you might send them an email that says, hey, did you get your mortgage, right? And you're just checking up on them. So it should feel much like a friend. Whatever your most comfortable intro greeting, again, like you would send to a friend. This is kind of popular and sort of what I do, and that is hi, and then I'm going to insert their first name. I'm going to do this programmatically. This is where the tool comes in, right? Because I want to scale this activity, right? And then an exclamation point. Again, just kind of feels, punchy, personal, and that sort of thing. What I do, but again, whatever you would normally do in your salutation, some people don't put anything in here, right? They just go into the message because they don't put people's names in emails anymore. So that's becoming super popular. It also, because there is a little bit of a danger here, if your data is not clean and it doesn't have a first name, of course, you purchase a lead from Age Lead Store, you're always going to have a first name. It's going to be correct. right, and well formatted. But you got to be careful with this, right? Because there's opportunity for mistakes. So sometimes it's good just to strike the whole thing, right? Just go into your email message. Again, seems very personal and conversational. You don't need to add their name. The counterpoint to this would be if you have their first name in there, then they say, oh, well, they know who I am, right? This isn't just blasting to 100 people. So all kinds of debate that we could have on what to do with that salutation. Then the guts of the message here. Again, you can see this whole message I put on this little section of the whiteboard. That's going to be super tiny, super short inside your email. People like to write these long emails and they like to format them, with images and all this stupid stuff. Headers. There is a role for this, right? So these nicely formatted emails that look like this, there is a role for this, but it's more in nurturing. This is not what you're going to do for drip emails. Again, straight text. Okay. So that's actually my rule. Drip email campaigns, text. Nurturing tends to be HTML and nicely formatted. Okay. Side rant. Okay. So this is what this email says. A couple of months ago, you requested a rate quote. And then I use bullet points, so it's really easy for them to scan and read and see what my questions are. And I just ask them 2 questions. Did you get all your questions answered? Question mark. Did you close on your mortgage? Question mark. Those are my 2 questions. I'm done. That's the only thing I'm asking for them, right? And then sort of my call to action. If you answered no to either, I'd love to assist, right? It's not pushy. It's not hard. It's not like, hey, I got the best rates in town. Like, hey, rates have plunged, and give this like this crazy, like the sky is falling sort of traditional loan officer approach or whatever. And it doesn't have hyperbole. I've got the best deal in town. I've got the best, this insurance. I've got the best rate. None of that. It's just, hey, if you didn't get what you were looking for, like, I'm here just to help, right? I'm a helpful person. Again, we're trying to build trust and credibility with that sentence. I'm not going to assault you. We're also, again, playing to this, right? I know they were assaulted before, most likely. So I am not going to take that tact. There is no pressure in this email. And then simply hit reply or call me direct 734-775-4487. By the way, that's my real cell phone number. So if you've got a question, you're welcome to call me. Hit reply or call me direct. I always encourage you to give them a direct phone number. If you have the ability, I know some bigger organizations, you don't have that ability to do that. You have to use an 800 number and all gets routed in and that sort of thing. But if at all possible, make this your cell phone number. Make this a direct number that you're going to pick up and you're going to answer in a personal way, right? Because again, remember, they were assaulted by the big companies, right? By the 100-pound, 800-pound gorillas, right? And so we want to make this as personal feeling as possible. So, hey, I just want to assist, just want to help. If you didn't get what you were looking for, hit reply, which will give me an email, or call me direct. Put your name, put a full signature block, right? Because oftentimes people will file these away and they'll pull them back later. One of the big mistakes I often see is they don't put any contact information in here, right? So you can reply to the email, but there's no phone number. There's no other alternate means of communication. Even when you put your phone number in these signature blocks, let them know that you can text that phone number. So again, make sure that signature block is in every single email so that there's no question that they have your contact information. They want to pick up and call, or they forward the email to somebody and they don't know who you are. It, again, has a nice clean email and phone number in there. So I hope that this has given you a nice starting framework to think about drip email campaigns. This is a critical skill to have if you're going to be purchasing Age leads. And so this is my quick little pitch, of course. Age Lead Store, we have the best leads. We are doing active lead optimization of those age data points to make sure that we do our level best to give you the best quality age leads possible. Okay, so as we close out, again, I would love for you to subscribe, hit that notification bell so I can be helpful to you in the future. And then one last appeal for comments, because again, this is a really big topic and I know you're going to have lots of questions. I have my actual drip email campaigns in a Google Doc that I used for my mortgage company. If you would like to have that and have a way to get to that, in the comments say, Bill, give me your drip email campaigns, and I will prepare that document in such a way that I can get it out to all of you, and I'll drop a link so that you can get that. So if you want that, put in the comments, I want your drip email campaigns. And I'll prepare that so that you can have exactly what I used for aged leads and my real-time leads. Again, it'll be specific to mortgage. That's my background. But of course, insurance, you're going to get a ton of value from that. So love that you guys are here. We can't wait to continue to provide you more of this sales training content. And we're going to see you next week.